Welcome to AminAcademy.com. Aluminium Bird, the history of an aircraft. The history of aviation dates to the 5th century with the invention of kites in China. The discovery of hydrogen in the 17th century led to the development of first hydrogen balloon. The invention of airships came to solve the issue with hot air balloons. Unlike hot air balloons, airships used hydrogen or helium gas to lift and were the first ones to carry passengers over the long distance. Despite the numerous advancement of fight lighter than aircraft, this existence was short-lived and overshadowed by the invention of the heavier than air airplane. The Wright brothers in the history of aviation. Between 1900 to 1902, the Wright brothers, Wilbur and Orville Wright from Dayton, Ohio, designed and tested numerous glider and kite models. They built a wind tunnel and then created various devices to measure the drag and lift and on more than 200 wings designs. Finally, their third glider was a success as it outdid its predecessors, which heavily contributed to the aeronautical engineering field. The Wright brothers also worked together to solve the current issue of controlled powered flight. They solved the control problem by creating wing wrapping for yaw control, roll control, and steerable rudder. In 1903, the two brothers successfully built and launched the first crewed heavier than air flight. This is also universally recognized that launched modern aviation. How aviation evolved from military applications to civilian. Aircraft became militarized as soon as it was invented. Italy was the first country to employ aircraft for military operations. They used airships and monoplanes to bomb shells and transportation during the Turkish-Italian War in Libya. Aircraft were first used in active combat on a large scale in World War I. Modern aviation, digital adoption and technology techniques in the modern era have been a massive advancement in the aviation industry. The realized the computer aided design and computer aided manufacturing software in the 1970s facilitated the development of enhanced aircraft design. Newer technologies like computer simulations have aided in producing lighter yet more robust material for building airplanes. Modern aircraft also some equipped with the digital system, eliminating most analog and technical mechanical instruments. During 1980s, cathode ray display in the cockpit were replaced with one more advanced computer-based electronic displays. The history of an aviation is a story filled with the success, failure, and perseverance of many men and women. Aviation History Month of November is a wonderful time to celebrate the people behind modern day aviation that powers a global economy and inspires many people to become aviators. For the detail, we'll discuss now the history of an aircraft. Abbas ibn Firnas, a 9th century Muslim scientist and polymath, is credited with being the first human to attempt flight using a glider. He designed a winged device and attempted a flight, though he was injured during the landing. This is a most detailed look at his effort. Motivation. Ibn Firnas was inspired by the natural flight of birds. He created a glider with wing made of silk, wood, and feathers. Attempt. He leaped from a high point intending to fly. Outcome: he glided for some time but was injured during the landing. While his attempt was not fully successful, Ibn Firnas' work is significant as it represents one of the earliest documented attempts at human flights and showcases the ingenuity of a Muslim scientist from the golden age of Islam. He is considered a pioneer in the field of aviation. The history of aircraft spans centuries from early kites and Leonardo da Vinci's designs to Wright brothers' first forward flight in 1903 and the subsequent evolution of airplane and aviation technology. Early beginning and scientific foundations. The human facilitation with the flight dates back to ancient times with Ligand and early attempts at mimicking bird flight, including the use of kites. Leonardo da Vinci's vision. In the 15th century, Leonardo da Vinci created designs for flying machines, demonstrating early understanding of aerodynamics and flight principles. Leonardo da Vinci's vision of flight involved creating machines that mimicked bird flight, like his ornithopter designs, which involved flapping wings and human-powered propulsions. He also explored gliding flight, and his work laid the foundation for future aeronautical advancement, including the helicopter. Scientific breakthroughs. In 1979, Sir George Cayley defined the forces of lift and drag and presented the first scientific design for a fixed-wing aircraft. Early gliders and aerodynamics. Scientists and engineers began designing and testing gliders, with Otto Lilienthal making the first controlled flight by shifting his body weight to steer a small glider. The dawn of powered flights. Wright brothers' achievements. In 1903, the Wright brothers, Orville and Wilbur, achieved the first controlled sustained powered flight in Kitty Hawk, North Carolina, making a pivotal moment in aviation history. Wright brothers, Wilbur and Orville Wright, achieved the first successful sustained and controlled flight for a heavier than air-powered aircraft on December 17, 1903. This marked a pivotal moment in aviation history, paving the way for the development of modern airplanes. Here is a more detailed look at their achievements. Look at their first flight. The Wright brothers, the first flight was at Kitty Hawk, North Carolina, and lasted 12 seconds, covering a distance of 120 feet. Early aviation. The design of airplanes evolved significantly after the Wright brothers' successes. The innovation like the monoplane in the 1910 and development of jet engine in 1930s and 1940s. First airplane passenger. Leon Delagrange was the first aeroplane passenger flying with pilot Henry Farman on March 29, 1908. Key milestone and developments. In 1852, Henry Giffard flew a steam engine driven craft believed to be the first powered controlled sustained lighter than an air flight. 1906, Trajan Villa designed and flew the first monoplane. In 1909, Louis Blériot, first person to cross the channel with his monoplane. In 1914, Tony Janus, USA, performed the first commercial flight in history from St. Petersburg to Tampa, Florida. In 1919, KLM, the oldest airplane still active, is founded. In 1934, the Indian Aircraft Act was propagated. In 1937, the Indian Aircraft Act was formulated. In 1940, Hindustan Aeronautics Limited (HAL) was set up at Bangalore. In 1941, India's first aircraft rolled out to test flight in July. In 1941, the Indian Air Force took part in the Second World War and was christened as Royal Indian Air Force. So far, we discussed about little about the history of aircraft. We have done. Please subscribe our YouTube channel.